Former Sheriff Richard Mack is trying to overthrow the U.S. government one county at a time by encouraging sheriffs to disobey federal laws that they don't like. You probably wouldn't be at all shocked to learn that Mack was involved in the Bundy Ranch standoff, where he encouraged the use of women and children as human shields. Mack is also the head of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. This is a totally bogus group that promotes the totally incorrect position that county sheriffs are the highest law enforcement officials in the country, and that they're authorized to evaluate which laws are constitutional and to decide which ones are unconstitutional and ignore them. And his group claims that they have several hundred sheriffs as paying members, and they are circulating a survey meant to convince other sheriffs into disregarding federal laws that they believe are not constitutional. Now, Mark Potok from the Southern Poverty Law Center has told me in a number of interviews now that sovereign citizen ideologies are the root of a lot of recent right-wing extremism, and that is exactly the core of this group. And in case you were curious about the legal underpinnings of this, legal experts say that Mack's interpretation completely contradicts the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which authorizes federal agents to enforce federal law that might conflict with state or local laws. And this is one of the main conflicts we see, Lewis, between the involving the so-called states' rightists and the constitutionalists and the sovereign citizen individuals. They believe that the federal government essentially just doesn't have the authority to supersede or impose federal law if a state or county or municipality, depending on which group you're talking about, says, oh, we don't like that federal law. Legal experts believe that the federal government absolutely has that right. One such example of a legal expert on this is Jared Goldstein, who's a professor of constitutional law at Roger Williams University School of Law. He said that this is so dangerous because not only is it not rooted in anything with strong legal underpinnings, but the sovereign citizen views of individuals like Sheriff Mack are being used to promote violent resistance to federal authority. And his analogy is brilliant. Jared Goldstein said, this is like Kim Davis plus guns, which to me, Lewis, is absolutely horrifying.
Yep, this has the Bundy standoff written all over it. It's the exact same type of thing. It's funny. They don't really care about federal law or the Constitution or whatever. But I bet you if you were to challenge their gun ownership, they'd be very quick to point to the Second Amendment.
And when I mentioned Kim Davis with guns, I assume Kim Davis actually has guns. I don't know one way or the other. I would guess she probably does have guns, but guns haven't been at the forefront of her actions. Unhinged bigotry has been. And there is really no legal justification for sheriffs to so-called evaluate laws. The Federalist Papers make it very clear that when you allow localities to determine which laws to obey and which laws to ignore, this was one of the primary reasons for the establishment of a federal government and the adoption of the Constitution we have. And Lewis is absolutely correct in pointing out that, oh, well, federal law, broadly speaking, doesn't apply when we don't want it to, but if anybody comes to take our guns, the Constitution guarantees us that we have access to guns. These are the ones who will first refuse to support laws that are supposedly unconstitutional, and then they'll use their guns to unconstitutionally round up Americans with unusual sounding names in the name of national security and support Trump's ban on Muslim travel and support and use the Constitution as justification for being able to do that. I think what we're very quickly learning, Lewis, is that these groups have no clue whatsoever, and they're just these hypocrites that we've been pointing out for years and years and years on the show.
Yeah, they just want to pretend they're Rambo and act like tough guys. I feel that's what's at the root of this. And once you put them under the magnifying glass and really look at these people, the hypocrisy is just rampant.